Well, hello there. This is Dr. Dell, and we're going to, on this video, Stephanie and I are going to tell you about the many things on the supercomputer that are for children in the age group 6 through 9. Some of these things you might start a little bit earlier and some a little bit later, but this is all about that. So, Stephanie, why don't you begin and show us some of the things that a child that's 6 to 9, I know there's many things, so we're going to give a quick overview.
Sure. One of the things that is important is when they get into early elementary school, even in those lower grades, they're using computers at school. So this is a great way to supplement what they're learning at school and also to give them that little bit of heads up, especially in the summer when they may be a little bored and need something to do. Things like that. So one of the options that we have is a game called Tux Typing. And it teaches them basic keyboarding skills. This is a skill they're going to use all of their lives. So if we go into lessons, it has pre-programmed basic lessons. So in this one, we're learning where the A and the S keys are. You'll notice it's flashing, it's showing where those keys are, and it's showing them on the hands what keys they should be using. So as they type, on this side of the screen, it's showing what their typing rate is, how many mistakes they're making. And then when they're done, it goes on to the next. So another thing that they can do, in addition to learning typing skills, is they can learn how to do spelling. And it comes with pre-programmed lists, but you also have the option, if you go into option, you can edit word lists and you can put your own spelling list that your child is learning in school. Also, as they get into upper grades, or even if they want to learn languages, you can change the language from English to a multitude of languages, and it will test them with their typing skills in those languages.
Now, Stephanie, I've noticed that some of my grandchildren are starting to learn this type of thing very early, and whether you're homeschooling your child or not, this is a wonderful thing for them to do, and I find that children really enjoy these things. It's almost like a game to them, learning it, particularly if you can give them rewards for it and acknowledge their success and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, and Tux Typing is set up in that format. So if we go into Fish Cascade, for example, and we'll start on an easy level, here are some pre-programmed lists that are already in there, and again, you can add in your own lists. So it puts it in a fun background, and over here on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the word is coming down, and the point is to type in the word before it gets to the penguin so that he can eat the fish. So, and it's set up just like other video games where it tells them how many fish they've gotten, how many lives they have left. So this is all in a familiar format to them.
Yeah, I think it's really great that you can have an educational game that's teaching them something that's fun at the same time. And that's what I'm just amazed myself at, all the wonderful things that have been created. And I might point out that these things are on the supercomputer are basically open source programs, but we've put them all on the supercomputer to make them very easy to use. And as you can see on our demonstration here, the supercomputer will interface into a large TV or a large monitor. So you're not looking at it on a little bitty screen, and you can use any kind of a keyboard you want. So you pick up a keyboard that is easy for your student to use. You get to select a keyboard that is easiest for your student. And you can either begin to teach them to use a mouse or a touchpad keyboard.
Absolutely. And in addition to having what we may perceive as a educational, even though they're all fun and educational, we also have something called Child's Play, where they can take a break with short games. And we'll just go over this very briefly, as there's a greater explanation in the previous video. There are memory games, there are hand-eye coordination games like the Pong that we grew up with, Simon Says, listening to sounds. We have quizzes, there's a basic math facts that you can help your child learn with, as well as puzzles, putting together jigsaw puzzles, real quickly on this one. It's find it. It's, those what are the differences games that they see in magazines, kids magazines, and they just have to click and find all the differences in the game. So it's got all kind of a wide variety of short, take a break kind of games.
Yeah, I might point out that we discussed this in the first video on children that are ages 3 to 6. You start them there, but then this just goes on and on. As the children get older, the games get more complex, more educational, and more interesting, and it really is never ending.
That's true. And even though we're trying to give the kids as much of a heads up in school, a good start, sometimes they don't have that at home. And if they need a little refresher, even in the 6 to 9 age group, we have games that are Fish, Block Breaker, which is like Breakout if you've played that on a PC, and it all teaches them that hand-eye coordination that's such a necessary skill. That's
right, and one of the things I've noticed that's on the supercomputer is a game called Minecraft. And that's an extremely popular game today. And I know I have a 7-year-old grandson that it just amazes me at what he can do with Minecraft, building things. It's an incredible thing. And on the supercomputer, because it's a large screen, it just makes it so much nicer than it would be on a small screen for him. And he just loves it. And I'm just amazed at what they're learning to do with that.
It's amazing. My son and my daughter as well both love to play with Minecraft. It's kind of like a virtual Legos. They build things in these worlds all the time. It's incredible the things that they can build with this, and it's such a simple thing.
Yeah, it really is. I think to have children do something that's interactive, it's developing skills they're going to need for the modern world we live in. You don't need to learn facts anymore so much as you need to learn skills, the ability to think, the ability to do things. And then, of course, that finally leads us into things that are on this for younger children that I think are called, Tux Math?
Yes, we have Tux Math. So I know, my kids, the worst thing in the world is for me to pull out those flashcards and say, hey, let's practice your math facts. But they just roll their eyes and they're like, oh, we just have to get through it. So this is a fun way to practice those math facts without feeling like they're practicing. They feel more like they're playing a game. So they're going to click on play alone. They can also play with friends on this computer. They just have to take turns on the keyboard. So if we go into this, and it's all set up in a video game format. So if we go into Math Command Training Academy, we have all sorts of skill sets. So they can start with just number typing, which is, learning how to type a number on the keyboard when you see it on the screen. We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, so that they aren't overwhelmed with learning everything at once. They can learn, we'll go in first just into addition, and they can practice those basic math skills. And so it shoots it, so it's fun, so they know when they get it right. If they don't, it just shoots off into the void. So nothing happens. There's no negative reinforcement. It's all positive when they get the number correct. It shoots it out of the sky, and they're the good.
So Stephanie, if I understand it, Tux Math then will teach a child how to count by tens and basically understand what we call the decimal, the place 10 system.
Yes, it has different levels of skills, and so as they get through one level, they go to the next level, and it keeps adding to that degree of difficulty. We go all the way from addition and subtraction through multiplication and division, adding and subtracting negative numbers.
Yeah, what I do, as you know, in my math training, is I assume that a child understands the number system, and then we teach them how to use a calculator to do the actual calculations, because that's how you do it in the modern world. You don't learn a lot of manual algorithms that are obsolete, but you learn how to use the modern tools.
Absolutely. And one of those modern tools is programming. So some people think that, oh, these kids are so young, they can't do programming. But my husband and I go into elementary schools and we set up supercomputers and show them what they can do. And one of those is a game called Scratch. So this is what it opens up with. It's got a cat that can be changed. They can add in different characters. I'm going to load a program that I did earlier. So I put in this picture of a bedroom. We've got all kinds of backdrops from sports to theater to around the house, anything that will spark their imagination. And over here is a very basic program that I wrote in just a few minutes. So it teaches them about things like the XY coordinates, moving in that XY coordinate plane, how to put in text, repeats. We can do things like if-then statements, and they don't need to understand programming and coding. One misplaced character and it doesn't work and it's frustrating. In this case, it's all visual and they don't have to worry about that.
If I understand it, that to the left there, those are the instructions that they then drag over to create the program.
Yes.
And they can experiment and learn, and then they can run a program and see what it does and say, oh, that didn't do what I want, so they could go back and change an instruction, delete or insert another instruction or whatever. It's a learning process.
Absolutely. So here, if I just click on the green, so I have when this is clicked, so that tells it when to start, so that teaches them about beginning. So it's going to move through. And then the cat just jumps up and down on the bed. So it looks very basic over here, and it is, but it teaches them, they get a very visual reaction out of that, so they feel that sense of accomplishment that they did something on the computer. And these kids, they can do far beyond this in just a little bit more time. I've seen them do programs.
And how old children can start? Obviously, it depends on the child, and different children are very different. But I think I've seen YouTube videos where children as young as, 4 or 5 years old start doing this? 6?
A little bit. The younger ages, again, they need that help from a parent, just learning the hand-eye coordination with the screen. But definitely by about 6 or 7 years old, they're in their programming.
What I like about it is writing a program this way is very easy to debug it. You run it and see what it does. And then if you don't like it, you go in and change. And it's amazing how quickly kids catch on to doing this. And they don't have to type in the instructions. They don't have to learn syntax. They just have to, well, they do have to learn, obviously, to read. They have to get to the point where they can understand what an instruction does. So that's why we put it in this 6 to 9 category.
Absolutely. They need to be able to read, understand numbers. One of the biggest things we have to teach them right away is this go-to at the very beginning, because otherwise when they run it, if they don't, the cat just keeps moving further and further across the screen, and sometimes he's off the screen. So we teach them right away, first thing you need to do is give them a starting point. So that's one of those big skills that we teach them.
Right. So you may want to, if you're a parent, you may want to learn programming yourself starting with scratch. If you've never programmed anything, this is a good place to start. That way you can begin to maybe keep up with your children as they go through life. Because I will tell you something. If your child's going to be successful in life, they're going to learn algorithms and programming and things like that. I mean, most children are going to do that, and you want to give them that opportunity. So this is actually a very great program for adults to start with if they've never programmed before. They may say, well, I don't like programming, I don't like computers. This is a great place to start.
Absolutely. It is a perfect place for adults to start as well, because it takes a lot of that error out of it, because you're not mistyping things. You're just dragging, dropping, and changing it to see what it does.
Yeah, of course, I've been around a long time, and computers didn't come along that were usable until I was much, much older. And I remember when I started learning to program, I didn't have anything like this. I had to start with a computer programming language. It took me months and months to do anything of any significance with the thing, because it was very hard to learn. So this is a way that a person of any age, really, starting very young, can begin to learn programming skills. And then you just go from there to more advanced programming. And we'll talk about that on the next video, which is really going to be about what children, once they say age 9 through 12, get into. And of course, the supercomputer has all sorts of things on them for them. And we'll talk about that in the next video. Okay, this is Dr. Dell, and if you haven't watched our first video on children age 3 through 6, pre-K, you ought to do that, probably. Even, you never know where your child needs to start. Like I said, your child of any age that's never programmed may want to start right here with Scratch Video. So Dr. Dell, I'll see you on another video.